This is Jordan Tower with JT News. Make sure you smash that like button and smash that subscribe button. Let's get right into the news. All right, so we're going to talk about this first. We got Young Buck and 50 Cent. 50 Cent tricked you into not liking Young Buck anymore. That's what Young Buck claims. We're going to keep talking about this because I want 50 Cent to address this, okay? So if you just keep talking about it, it'll get addressed. Eventually it will. Young Buck said that, oh, ha, 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 joke's on you, 50 Cent. 50 Cent made this happen. He orchestrated the whole thing and masterminded it. He said he was going to say bad things about me. I said, okay, I can handle it. And I went with it. That sounds ludicrous. Because you know what? The whole thing started with Young Buck thinking that he wasn't getting all of his money because he saw 50 Cent buying lots of cars after the Power success. Yes, that's when it started. I remember. Don't forget, we've been reporting the news every day for years. So anyways, I remember when that happened. And I was like, geez, this stinks. Young Buck and 50 Cent, not cool again. What is it, the third time? So I was like, and things were just going good for Young Buck again. He was back in the Bentley. He was, riding clean again. He was making money. 50 Cent was handling his business. And he felt left out with the Power thing. This was not orchestrated. I think they're going to do a G-Unit reunion. I want to see what 50 Cent says about this, though. I don't believe this thing that Young Buck's saying. I want to see what 50 Cent's excuse is. Because you know what? People can tell me in the comments all day, oh, that's 50's formula, beef, 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 beef. Yo, that was out the window in 2008. Yeah, he has little tips on Instagram just to keep things interesting, but that whole beef thing with that 50 Cent formula was over around the Rick Ross time. That's when it stopped working. Rick Ross won that one. He did. 50 Cent went with the Pimp and Curly instead of going to music. I was talking to somebody at June around the time. I said, hey, because I spoke to 50 right before the Rick Ross thing happened, because I did the first video of Rick Ross dissing 50 Cent. And when I did it, I said, geez, I live in New York City. Let me reach out to somebody at June. I did. Me and 50 spoke about it. And I was like, I don't want to, I didn't want to be involved in that because I already know where those things go. 50 Cent had a good track record of winning. So you know what? Let me just bow out of the whole thing. That's why I didn't continue doing videos with Rick Ross at that point. I just left it alone, because it was like, nah, I'm not going to be involved in some beef, and I'm going to be the main guy doing all the videos on one side. That's going to look weird, So anyways, hey, I don't think that's what happened. Next up, we got Budden Podcast. Now, I stopped listening to the podcast. I used to listen to it a lot because I like the perspective on things. Then it got a little too personal. People are invested in this podcast, though. As you should. If you like what their banter back and forth, hey, you should be a fan of their podcast. It just wasn't for me after a while, but that happens, okay? I'm sure I've had people cycle out of my channel and cycle back in that don't like my content. It just happens, okay? So their content changed a little bit. Then, it wasn't accessible as much anymore on Spotify. So I was like, he pulled. So this new business move he did, he pulled from Spotify. There was guaranteed money there. And hey, risk taker. I respect it, right? Went to Patreon. He has a job at Patreon. They gave him a position. So he has a guaranteed paycheck now. They probably have something worked out with the podcast. Then he has sponsors for the podcast, still able to put it everywhere. Okay, so I don't know how their money thing is, but obviously something's wrong. Rory and this is like notes from Reddit because I can't think of everything that's wrong. I knew that Joe Budden would talk over them sometimes. They felt a little devalued sometimes. It seemed like there was issues with decisions being made. Joe Budden is the the star that they all revolve around. That's how it seems on the show. Even though they all are equals, they all play off of each other at this point. Rory and Mal, they're on strike. I saw that there was it was on all the blogs. Rory and Mal aren't on the podcast. He was replaced by 2 other Joe Budden's friends. Joe doesn't know if they'll ever come back. Now, this could be fake to promote the podcast because they've seen a dip in numbers since they've moved off Spotify. They're not getting the big machine advertising for them anymore. Yeah, Spotify offered less than anybody else would have, but Spotify was pouring millions of dollars into promotion of all their talent, and they would have benefited from that. Anyways, keep it moving. Joe doesn't know if they'll ever come back, but if they do, they will always have their seats. Ice and Savon are not their replacements, just who Joe could find to hold their spots while they figured out this miscommunication. According to Joe, it's just a miscommunication. It isn't about money. It isn't a fight. It's about a miscommunication. Well, a miscommunication is usually some sort of fight, and it could be a miscommunication over money. Parks adds and says, it's also business PTSD. Sounds like money. Joe has talked to both Mal and Rory, even in their absence, and it's still love. Joe believes they're coming back. They're definitely coming back. Where else are they going to go? They could go do other jobs, I'm sure. But, like, as far as this content stuff, I don't know if they're going to, say they both decided to start their own podcast aside from Joe. We've seen them on the podcast without Joe. Joe is the draw. But Joe also needs them to bounce things off of. Joe also spoke of the tension the fans pointed out the last few weeks and said it was very real. Business talks can't outweigh the friendship talks. It's money! Business talks can't outweigh friendship talks. Joe also speaks to Rory, saying he wants to box Joe every week. How it was more serious than it sounded after Joe said he doesn't play with friends like that. And Rory replied, what if we're not friends? Important. Joe and Rory to take a few podcasts off after the tension got so thick between them. Rory agreed. Important. This is someone else's notes. Mal is standing with Rory. Doesn't think Joe should have the power to tell Rory to stay home from the podcast. Apparently, the convo got personal, and Joe said things to Mal he shouldn't have said. Park said it didn't go well while he was there. Well, we'll have to see. A lot of people are reacting to this, and they don't want to really listen to the podcast without Rory and Mal. They got used to that whole banter between them. And some people really rely on listening to this podcast. Everyone, some people, if you like this podcast, you're gonna want to tune in every week. It throws your whole mojo off. Let's see. Wait, Rory and Mal on strike. I bet they're sick of Joe Budden and his behavior. Get a little equity and they don't know how to act. People get a little equity and they don't know how to act. It says, us, bring Rory and Mal back to the podcast right now. Joe Budden. Or what? They could come back. They might not come back. It could be, let's see, Joe, just give us back our masters. We'll talk Wednesday. Transparency is my thing. And that's what he dropped today. I didn't really listen to the whole thing, I'm going to be honest with you. But those are just the notes. Let's see. I don't know, man. They're going to have to, let's see. I think Joe Budden thinks I'm going to remain at the $25 tier Patreon subscriber without Rory and Mal. He's sadly mistaken. These people talking in here is crazy. It's always sad when money comes into the whole thing, but it always does. That's why I stopped dealing with money and friends. What you do is everybody has their own thing going. This is what me and MREC talked about. This is why we didn't start a separate channel for anything. We did content together and uploaded the same content. We just shifted it a little bit. So we do the same video twice and upload it on each other's channel. So it's like different videos, different perspectives, but same topic. And that way, he's making his money, I'm making my money. Whoever's video does the best. You know, it's like, it's all in the algorithm. And that way, we never had any fights. That's why me and him are still cool to this day, you know, because money will always get in the middle of two people. Marriages, friendships, everything, you know. So you don't want, when you care about someone, whether they be a friend or a family member or anything, you want to either have a contract in place, have a lot of communication, or each one of you make your own business moves, but you can collaborate, you know. Anyways, we'll see how this works. Doesn't look good, but I think they'll come back. It's going to be messy for a minute, though. Anyways, this is Jordan Tower with JT News. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll check you guys later.